Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to film an updated foundation routine video. I filmed a foundation routine video a few months back, probably almost a year ago now actually, but I feel like that one is now outdated, so I wanted to do a new one and show you guys the products that I'm currently using, the techniques that I currently do, and just how I do my entire foundation routine nowadays. So this is definitely my go-to foundation routine. This is how I do my foundation routine every single day, and unless I'm like trying out new products, this is the way that I do my foundation. This is my go-to foundation routine and my go-to products. Okay, enough rambling. Anyways, if you want to see how I do my foundation, then please keep watching. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Hangover RX primer from Too Faced. This is one of my favorite primers because not only does it smell so good, but it's kind of like a moisturizer too. So I have already washed and moisturized my face, but in the instances where I haven't moisturized yet, like this kind of acts as a moisturizer as well as a primer. And I just really love this primer because it just makes my skin feel so hydrated, and it's just a really good base underneath my foundations. I'm actually running out of this one. I think I have another one in my drawer, but I'm sad. I use it literally every single day. It's like my favorite primer. Top two. I have two favorites, but this is my #1 favorite. And I just work this all into my skin, all over my face. I don't focus it in any specific area. I literally just put it all over my face and I work it in with my fingers. For foundation, I'm going to be using the Born This Way foundation, also from Too Faced. I'm in the shade Warm Nude, and I feel like this is a really good shade because it works for me when I'm not tanned, and it also works for me when I'm tanned as well. It's just like a really good shade for me. And I think I'm almost out of this too. But it does have a pump, and I like to just pump it right onto my face like that. And I usually only do 2 pumps, 1 on each side of my face, and then I'll just kind of move that all around my entire face. I'm going to blend it in with my damp beauty blender. And this foundation I feel like wears good whether you blend it in with a beauty blender or a brush. I will do both, or either or, but lately I've really been loving my beauty blender again. I kind of go back and forth, but you guys always make sure to dampen your beauty blender or your beauty sponge or whatever sponge you're using. Dampen it, you guys. I don't even know how anyone could ever use a dry sponge. No offense if you use a dry sponge, but let me just turn you on. Like, please dampen your beauty sponge, okay? So I'm just going to bounce this into my skin, and I'm using a really light hand, and I'm literally just bouncing it all over. And I'm also going to take it down the neck so that everything blends nicely. I also really prefer using this is going to sound gross, but like a dirtier or a more used beauty blender or beauty sponge. I don't really like them when they're like brand new and they don't have any product on them, because I feel like the sponge absorbs more of the product when it's brand new, even if it's wet. So I prefer mine to be used a few times. Obviously I do wash my beauty blenders, but I just like them after like a good 4 or 5 uses. I feel like they're like at their prime at that point. So yeah, just lightly tapping this into my skin. I'm making sure that I blend it all around my hairline. And normally I would go in my ears, but I just got some new ear piercings, so I'm going to leave that alone. I don't want to get them dirty or infected or anything. But I will drag it all the way down to my neck, especially when I'm wearing a top. Like right now I have a tube top on. I know you can't see it, but sometimes I'll even take it like far down onto my chest just to like really blend, but that's when I'm being like super extra. And I'm using the fat little bottom of my beauty sponge. Alright, for concealer, I'm going to be using this one from Smashbox Cosmetics. This is the Studio Skin Flawless 24-Hour Concealer, and I am in the shade Light Cool Peach. I really love cool toned products on my skin, especially. As you can tell, the foundation is more of like a cool toned yellow. But I also really like to put like peachy shades underneath my eyes just to kind of brighten up that area because it is a little bit darker in that area. So when I saw this cool peach shade in concealers, I was like, well, I have to try that. And lately I haven't been concealing like at all. I just kind of like didn't like, I think it's because I was using the Tape Shape concealer and I just felt like it was too thick and too heavy for me. It was starting to get like creasy and made me look like dry underneath my eyes. Maybe it was just because the product was old, I don't know, but I didn't like it, so that made me stop concealing altogether until I found this. I started highlighting with concealer again. So I'm gonna go in with this. I really love the formula of this also. So I like to draw like a little line there and here and here. It's still in that like triangle shape, but it's not, you know, completely covered with product in that area. And then I also like to put it here on my chin to highlight my chin, and then up here on my forehead and down the bridge of my nose. And now that you look like a warrior, got your war paint on, you're going to take your Beauty Blender again. I like to use the pointier part because it's more angled, and I feel like it just helps me really like get into like this corner of my eye area, as well as just kind of like precisely blend this concealer out. And I'm just using a really light hand and light tapping motions because I don't want to remove any of the product or any of that foundation that I already laid down, because I feel like sometimes some concealers like don't do well on top of foundation. Like it almost like removes whatever is underneath it. So I'm always very careful about that. This one doesn't seem to do that though. It's pretty creamy and nice. So I'm just going to blend it in on my chin also. And with the concealer, I'm not like bringing it out here. I'm really just keeping it concentrated in the areas that I applied it in. I will flip the Beauty Blender around to the little bottom part of it that the foundation's on, just to kind of blur or blend the edges, but I'm not tapping it out in the middle with the bottom of the sponge. I'm only using the area that has the concealer on it to blend out the concealer, if that makes sense. And then I'll blend out down my nose. And I don't feel like this concealer dries super fast, but it does dry. So you want to work kind of quickly so that it doesn't dry in like the shape that you applied it in, you know, because that doesn't look nice. So I basically highlighted all the highest points of my face, all the areas that I want to like brighten up. And after I'm done with my concealer, you can also spot conceal with concealer, obviously. Like if you have like a pimple or a blemish or something, you can apply a little bit on that area if your foundation didn't cover it. But after concealer, I'm going to move on to contour. And lately, I've always been a fan of Hoola bronzer, but I don't know, I just kind of stopped using it recently, and until I got this one in the mail. This is the Hoola Light, and it's just a little bit lighter than the original Hoola. I still love this one, and I actually use both of them in my everyday foundation routine, but I'm loving this one, and this is what like got me back onto Hoola bronzer. And powder contour anyways, because I kind of started doing like a lot of cream contour because I don't know, I kind of just go back and forth, whatever. But anyways, I'm going to be using the Hoola Light bronzer to contour my face. And I'm going to be using a brush to apply the Hoola bronzer. This is the Hoola bronzer contour brush, I think. It's from Benefit. By the way, Hoola Light smells so good. Okay, so I'm just going to start by applying this underneath my cheekbone just to define my cheekbone a little bit. And as you can see, it's a pretty subtle contour, especially on me. It's not super heavy, but I like that because I feel like it just gives a really nice natural shadow contour look. It's not like, it doesn't look like I like have a dirt smudge on my face. It's like, is she contoured or is she just snatched? And of course I'm going to do it on both sides. And I'm going to contour along my forehead. I don't really do this to like change the shape of my face. I do it more so just to warm up my face and give my face some color so I don't look like I'm dead, because I feel like foundation alone, obviously foundation is great, but if it's applied and left by itself, it can leave you looking a little bit flat and not very lively. So I like to warm up my face and just give a little bit of color by using bronzer around my face, like so. And then of course applying the contour right here is going to help define my cheekbones and like slim out my face a little bit. And then I'll also apply some along my jawline, not too heavy. You want to be careful doing this because you don't want to look like you have like a grandma line. No offense to any grandmas out there, but you know, you just don't want to look like you have dirt on your neck or like you didn't blend your foundation all the way. So I do this super lightly, and this is just to give my jawline a little bit of definition as well as create a shadow to kind of accentuate my chin, because I have a weak chin, you guys, and it needs a little help. So I'm just going really lightly, creating a shadow along my jawline, nothing too crazy. And then I'm going to go in with my Morphe E30 brush. It's just this like big kind of like eyeshadow brush. And I'm going to take a little bit of that contour, the Hoola light, and I'm just going to start contouring the sides of my nose just a little bit, just so my nose doesn't get lost in my face. I just want to give it a little bit of definition. I'm not going to like snatch my nose too crazy because I'm not that good at contouring my nose anyways. If I could do like a James Charles nose snatch, I would, but I'm just like, I just don't have the nose contouring skill down yet. I think I need to try harder in that department. But I also don't feel like my nose really needs it necessarily, so I'm just going to do this a little bit just to kind of straighten things out and to just define my nose a little bit. When I am doing nose contour though, I will bring it all the way up to meet my brow just to kind of blend everything together so it doesn't like just stop somewhere on my nose, you know what I mean? But I'm just doing it really lightly, and I love the Hoola light. I love how it's lighter, especially for nose contour. And then I will just go over top here a little bit just to hopefully help the tip of my nose look a little perky. Okay, then I'm going to move on to the original Hoola bronzer. This is the like original shade. I guess I can hold them side by side so you can see. It's really like a subtle difference in my opinion. It's not like a huge drastic change, but I'm going to use this to kind of just like create a little more dimension. I feel like using the two colors together just help, like, I don't know, just adds a little more depth, I guess. I don't feel like it's necessary to use two different contour colors, but I like to. I just like the way it looks. And I'm just applying this with the same brush that I applied the other Hoola shade with. So I'm just going over the same areas really lightly, and I'm just creating a little bit of depth, just a little bit more. I have to be careful with the darker shade though, because sometimes I get too carried away and I end up looking just a little too bronzy. After bronzer, I love to bake and kind of like chisel or like cut out, whatever you want to call it, define my contour with a little bit of loose setting powder. I love this one. I've tried a lot of different loose setting powders, and this one is by far my favorite. I'm on my second container, whatever. This is the Maybelline Fit Me loose setting powder, and I like to use the shade Fair Light. It's just, I bought a darker one and I didn't like it. It was too dark. So this one for me is perfect, especially for what I use it for. So I like to take the same beauty blender that I used earlier. It's okay if it's still a little damp, and I just like to dip it right in the powder. And then I will take this and just carve out that contour area just to kind of like straighten it up, smooth it out, define it a little bit. This is like my favorite part of my makeup routine. I don't know why. I'll also put it on my chin over the concealed area just to kind of set the concealer and brighten up that area a little bit more. I'm also I need to use my mirror for this part. I'm also gonna define my nose contour a little bit. And I like to carve out my nose in this shape. I don't know why, I just feel like it's like the most flattering. And I'm obviously going to do the same thing on both sides of my nose. And then using the corner of the Beauty Blender, just kind of like get it into my inner corner as well as like the crease of my nose, just to set that area with a little bit of powder. And then whatever is left on the sponge, I'm not going to re-dip. I'm going to use it to set the concealed area on my forehead. And that is it. Those are the only areas that I bake. So I'm going to let that sit for just a minute, like literally a minute. Some girls I know they'll like bake their face for like 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. I personally only like to bake for like 1 minute. I feel like if I bake any longer, it just ends up looking like kind of cakey in those areas. So I just let this sit for about 1 minute and then I'll dust it off. Okay, and then after it sit for about a minute, I like to take my big fluffy powder brush from Real Techniques. This is one of my favorite powder brushes, and I'm just going to dust off the powder in those areas. As you can see, it kind of just creates a little more contrast and a cleaner line. So I'm just going to lightly dust it off in those areas. And then I kind of just tap in whatever excess powder is left on my brush all over my face, just to kind of like lightly set my entire face with a little bit of powder. Okay, after I've dusted all that powder away, I'm going to go ahead and use a brightening powder. This is something kind of new to me, and I honestly don't even know if how I use it is the way it's supposed to be used, but I really have been loving the way it looks. I don't know if you know this, but I also model. Modeling is my like real job, my full-time job, and so therefore I know how my makeup looks like photographed, and because there is times where I do my own makeup for shoots, but I know that this technique photographs well also, because when I first did it I was kind of worried about flashback or how it would photograph, but I've learned that it actually photographs very nicely, and even though it's kind of strange, I really just love the way it looks. But you're about to figure out why it's strange. Anyways, this is the Cover FX Face Palette. This is the light medium palette, and I actually got this in a BoxyCharm. I didn't like buy this myself. It came in a BoxyCharm, my March BoxyCharm, and I'm really excited because I really actually love it. The only thing that I'm going to be using out of it today though is this brightening powder right here. And what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of that on my Real Techniques setting brush, and this is almost like a highlighting shade. It's shimmery, okay? I'm basically applying like highlight underneath my eye, which is why I think it's strange, but it just brightens up this area so much. Even though it's shimmery and I feel like this is kind of taboo, it ends up looking really nice when everything is all said and done. So I just like to apply this underneath my eye, kind of just in the same location that I applied all that concealer, and I'm just really lightly tapping this on to this area. I also like to apply a little bit on my chin, just to kind of brighten up my chin, and I want to accentuate my chin because I do have a weak chin, so I feel like this makes it look just a little more accentuated, longer, bigger. I don't know how to correctly describe a chin, but I want to make it look not as weak, stronger. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to also apply this under this eye, and then I'm also going to drag it down the bridge of my nose. I love to highlight the bridge of my nose, and then I'll tap it onto the center of my forehead as well. So I'm basically using this as a highlighter. Essentially it's the same thing, except for I would never ever apply a highlight underneath my eyes until it's labeled a brightening powder. And I know it looks a little intense right now, but by the time everything's said and done, it's gonna look just fine. Oh yeah, I'm also going to take the tip of my finger and a little bit of that brightening powder and just apply it to the tip of my nose, just to kind of accentuate the tip of my nose a little bit and make my nose look a little bit more perky. Okay, after I've applied that brightening powder, as you can see, it does look a lot brighter under here, but it also looks kind of shimmery because, like I said, it has shimmer in it. So it's okay, but I'm going to tone it down a little bit by using this setting powder from CoverGirl. This is the True Blend Minerals Loose Setting Powder in the shade Light. I've been using this for many, many years, since high school, you guys. And I love it because it has like a slight shimmer, but it's also like tinted, so it's kind of like a nude, you know, skin tone color. I don't know, it just gives a really nice finish in my opinion. And I like to take it onto my Real Techniques fluffy brush, the same one that I used earlier. And I'm just going to lightly blend like my whole face with this setting powder as well as set everything, of course. So this is just going to tone down underneath my eyes a little bit, but it's not going to completely take away that brightening effect. I just feel like this setting powder just gives a really nice, lovely finish to my skin. I've gotten a lot of compliments when I wear this. They're like, wow, your skin is glowing. And I'm like, it's the setting powder. After I set my entire face, I'm going to go in with some blush. I love this blush from Tarte. This is the Exposed blush. Oh, this is the Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush in Exposed. I just love the color. It's just like a really, kind of like a neutral, it's not too pink, it's not too bright. It's just like a really nice blush tone. It's one of my favorites. And I'm going to take this onto my Real Techniques Tapered Blush Brush. It's my favorite blush brush. And I'm going to apply this to the apples of my cheeks. And the way that you find the apples of your cheeks is by smiling, you guys. Smile and see this like round area? That's the apple of your cheek. So I'm going to apply it to the apples of my cheeks and kind of just bring it out a little bit. Kind of in the same area that I contoured. And I'm just tapping it on because at this point I have a lot of product on my face and I don't want to remove any of the product. I want to build. So I'm just tapping this blush onto my face in the area that I want it to go. I also didn't apply too much blush to my brush because I didn't want it to be so concentrated at first. You can always add, but you can't subtract. So start little and you can always add more if it's not enough. I'm also going to use whatever is left on my brush. I'm not going to re-dip, and I'm just going to lightly tap onto my nose area just to give my skin kind of like a sun-kissed look. Not too much. I don't want to look sunburnt. I just want to look sun-kissed. And then also a little bit onto my chin and my forehead area. Just a tad. Just to, you know, I want my face to look flushed and alive and healthy. And then I'm going to go back in with my big fluffy brush and kind of just tap over top that just to soften the blush a little bit. I don't like it to be too intense because I don't want to look like a porcelain doll or a clown. I just want to look healthy and lively. So I'm just going to lightly blend that blush a little bit with my fluffy brush and whatever product is left. And then in some instances, after all of that product is applied and I've blended and buffed and puffed, sometimes I feel like my contour gets a little dull or like blown out. So sometimes I'll go back in with a little bit more contour and just kind of like bronze up my face again one more time, because for me the most important part is being like tanned and bronzed. I don't really feel like I need it this time, but I just wanted to mention that in case you also have that issue. And usually I would highlight, but lately because I've been using that brightening powder, I just feel like adding more highlight would be a little overkill, and I like the way my skin looks already, so I'm going to skip highlighter. And then the last step would be setting spray. I thought I ran out of my setting spray, but I forgot that I had another one. So my all-time favorite setting spray is the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. This is the best setting spray, and if you want your makeup to last all night, you need this one, seriously. It's so good. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of this. And don't be afraid to really go in, because sometimes you just need to. I let that dry. I kind of help it by fanning it a little bit. And this is just going to help all that makeup set in place. It's going to lock it in, and it's also going to help you if you look a little too powdery. It'll just help set your makeup. So yeah, and then you have a flawless foundation base. I went ahead and put some lips on. I swear to God, lips for me makes the biggest difference. But anyways, that is it for my current foundation routine. This is how I do my foundation normally. This is normally how I do my foundation. I would say this is my everyday foundation routine for sure. So this is my go-to foundation routine. I just said the same thing 4 different times, 4 different ways. So I hope you understand now. I know I did film a foundation routine a few months back, but I feel like that one is now outdated. So I wanted to update you guys. There's a couple new products that I use and a couple new techniques that I do. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this foundation routine video. I hope you learned a couple things. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, please let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. Also, leave any questions or comments in the comment section, or just come say what's up. I love when you guys talk to me. I try and respond to every single one of my comments, and I totally appreciate when you guys take time out of your day to like say hi or ask a question or whatever. I just think that's really cool to talk to you guys. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!